one of their...
I want to ask you to repeat that so they created the 13 unanimous votes from the Articles of Confederation, then they only needed 9 within their constitution, correct me if I'm wrong, and then they created this constitution that actually does not apply to us, but there was another constitution that does, and then I didn't get to write that down or even...
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, what was...
The only part of the Constitution that actually applies to us are the Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights, that's right. But you said that there was another Florida Constitution.
So I refer to that form of government we authorized if you're going to just resign to the fact that everybody's going to say it's legit. If you do that, you say, okay, so here's your form of government. Here's how you must structure it. These are the only things you're allowed to do. And if we didn't specify it, it belongs to the state or the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, now, here's some rules, right? Because the Constitution requires an oath, right? So there are some rules in the Constitution they have to do, in order to occupy an office. There must be some of these little preliminary, oaths. And then they write all of their statutes, rules, codes, and regulations for their employees to operate within the parameters of the form of government we authorized. So all of that stuff, I don't use their statutes, their codes. That's for them.
Well, you're absolutely accurate.
If I have to reference something, I let them know, and I do a disclaimer that this has no bearing on me as a man, but it is a requirement of you as an employee working for the government under the Constitution of the United States, which is the only thing that gives them authority to exist. So
yes.
I do a different approach. I don't want to, I've read enough of their stuff. I could recite it to you all day long. They ignore it constantly. What they can't ignore is Supreme Court case law, because that is called stare decisis, and that is the law of the land for all of their employees. So I use their case law from the Supreme Court of the United States and instruct them by notice or by order what it is they're supposed to do from our courts, which have a superior or more supreme status than their highest court, called the Supreme Court of the United States. And they even acknowledge that in Ex parte Watkins.
There's a case law right here by Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan. All codes, rules, and regulations are applicable to the government authorities only.
That applies to U.S. citizens. It does, and that's the thing they created in their Congress. So
yes.
if you want to look at case law where there are citizens of the several states and then citizens that are a creation of Congress. We are different citizens than U.S. or citizens of the U.S. So that's why I don't go there. That's for U.S. citizens or citizens of the U.S.
Giles,
Donovan.
You had talked about a separate constitution for Florida that you refer to?
1838, yes.
1838, okay. Another question I have is...
we submitted. Well, that's the Constitution we submitted in 1845 to become a member of the Union of States.
I'm deeply motivated in this level of... how do I explain this? Okay, so when I first started doing this, everybody thought I was crazy. I lost all my friends. I eventually divorced my first wife. My family is not supportive. They are now becoming supportive, believe it or not. But at first, I'm not going to lie, everybody thought I was crazy. So I was like this lone wolf in the world. And, you're kind of like battling things. And it takes a lot of faith and strength to continue on forward of doing what you're doing. And then once I joined the actual assembly, my goal is to solidify the government of the people, by the people, for the people. And because I moved down to Florida, I've had to kind of reset and recalibrate where the Florida Assembly is. So now that I'm here, like I said, I was kind of being a solo operator. So I wanted to, I got an RV. It's not registered yet. It hasn't been registered in over 3 years, so I am the sole owner. I am going to figure out a way to get the manufacturer. I can't get a hold of them, so I'm looking through ways to get like a deed or an actual allodial title towards it, but that's kind of irrelevant. But my point is that I want to be more aboriginal, indigenous to the land and just be left alone and recognized by the government that the de facto side that I have every right to be here. Here's my political status, etc., etc.
No,
well,
it's the same goal that we have, but the only way that we believe that we can accomplish that and achieve that remedy is through our state courts.
So listen, I get that. So last night, I had an epiphany. I got the link to join the assembly last night, and it dawned on me that we're using their decals, their license plates. We registered our vehicle over to them. We need to have our own decals and our own license plates. And so when I said that...
the Department of Motor Vehicles can actually issue those things, Seneca, if we have a ruling, a decision by our court based on the verdict of a jury of peers.
Yep.
In a court of record, we can issue them the order to create our state national.
That's what I'm calling you for.
Plate for our cars. So that's
I want to know.
Through the courts.
I would like to meet you and get a good. I want you to assess me, okay? Because I'm not very egoic. I'm not the person that says I'm the best at this. I don't know my own strengths and where would be fit for me. I do know that I have a passion studying the law. I love these conversations right here. We're having church right now to me, okay? This is my church.
Yep.
So
I get it. Trust me, I get it.
So moving forward, I love the law. I love the law. I love the law. I really do. So I don't know where my position is, but I want to put the gas and the acceleration on developing a court tomorrow, okay? Like that's where my mind is, okay? Wherever you see fit, whatever I can do, wherever you would see me.
So yes. So what county are you on? If you're talking about, you're on Brevard.
No, Melrose is located in Putnam County.
Okay, all right, sorry, my apologies.
No, it's okay.
I actually have, because we have 67 counties. I go, okay, exactly what county does that fall into? I wish I had a photographic memory. I could.
So Putnam Hall is right next to Clay County.
And then go, okay, that's in this county.
We have Putnam County and Clay County. I'm right on the border between the two, but I am located in Putnam County, so Melrose. But my property actually sits in Clay County. Okay, but everything.
Right.
It's very complex. It's a little complicated, actually. But my address...
I don't believe we have an organizer on Clay County either, by the way.
I know Barbie offered the idea of an organizer, and I don't really know what that is, but I know that my passion's mostly in the law and trying to find a way to be more diplomatic. Like, I don't mind talking to government officials. I'm not afraid of my government. I've contacted the FBI just to see if I'm on an FBI watch list. I've contacted in Maine. I was, working with them, contacting the Secretary of State all the time, the governor. I did talk to a few lieutenants and a couple of sergeants and chiefs to get them to recognize the law that they don't actually have any authority over us, and they did admit it, and I recorded all the conversations and then posted them on YouTube, so they're available. And there's a lot of, but now I'm down in Florida, and I'm noticing that it's kind of a police state, that they don't recognize the rights of the people. They're trying to...
Oh, no, and it's worse than Democratic-controlled states, but yeah, all of them are police states, all of them. I mean, they're hired pinkertons, right? They're not constitutional sheriffs with, what would be constitutional deputies.
Okay.
They're not peacekeepers. They're actually enforcement officers. Well, you don't enforce laws,
yes.
right? They enforce the codes, statutes, and rules and regulations.
You're right.
So, yeah, we're close by.
If you want, I could drive out there today.
Let me get an email address from you. Let me do that. I'm going to get an email address from you. I'm going to see if I can Let's see. That's too long. Make sure I got my right account open. So what is your email address?
I'm going to spell it out for you instead of just saying it.
Right.
It's S as in Sam, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, C as in Carl, A as in Apple, S as in Sam, E as in Edward, I as in idiom, B as in boy, E as in Edward, R as in Randall, T as in Tom, at gmail.com.
Okay, so I'm going to send you gmail.com. All right, so I'm going to send you a book. Let me ask first. Do you have the book America Some Assembly Required?
I do not have that book, no. But I'll gladly, with all gratitude, accept
No, I'm
the book.
sending you the PDF of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
So you can just read it. Now, that's a very good book to get a handle on where we started, what happened leading all the way up to the Civil War, what happened during the Civil War, what happened after the Civil War, what happened with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, what happened all the way through to current time.
Perfect.
Up till Donald Trump.
I love it.
Right, so it's America's Some Assembly Required. And the reason there's some assembly required is we're reconstructing. That's actually what we're doing. We're reconstructing what was here in place that got dismantled. We're not creating anything new. It was already here.
Right.
And so we had it dismantled for us. And so our job was to reconstruct it, hence the word, the Reconstruction Act. Right? We were required to reconstruct it. So I'm going to attach that book now. While we're talking on, I already did the email. I want to attach the book. So this is a wonderful place to start. And it will give you a great overview of what has happened, where we are, what needs to be done. Okay, so, and if you keep referring to this, when you start thinking about, well, what happened and what do we have to do, it's a very good manual.
You're
right?
definitely telling
Now,
me, like, I created a documentation about 4 years ago called The Darkness of Freedom. It's 5 hours long, and it started by me inquiring, how did we get into this mess? And I found out that, we borrowed a lot of money from European bankers to fight off the British. And then
we didn't. We didn't. The government did.
Right. That's what So the government borrowed money. Yeah, they borrowed money to fight off the Brits, and there was a 70-year note. And then when Abraham Lincoln got into office, there was a demand of the collateralization of the lands even further from the original 13 colonies into the 34 republics, and then the other Confederate states or the confederations and the other republics wanted nothing to do with it because they had nothing to deal with the original compact agreement that put them in debt in the first place. So then this is where there was a collateralization of the lands, including black people, privatization of slavery, and then converting. This is what I've heard, at least as far as in the 1800s when they created the United States citizen, is when they started to free the black people and make them public property to the United States government after the Civil War. And we had a day of sine die, which was a day of without adjournment. And then obviously the war took place and nobody within the de jure government went back. And then they created the Lieber Code, General Orders 100. This is at least some of the background knowledge. I'm actually going to read the book. I will, because, there's more information that I'm probably, not...
No, it actually covers a lot of what you're talking about.
Perfect. So then, through that reconstruction, Abraham Lincoln did want to preserve the Union, but nobody knows what that means because they don't actually take the time to read the Articles of Confederation. If you read Article 6, paragraph 1, it talks about the debts shall be accrued upon the United States that also were originally from the original Constitution as well as the Confederation. And then, so that's mentioned in the Articles of Confederation that I usually use within my defenses as I move forward in these courts of law. And, there is, I'm going to push him, Giles, because I'm dealing with the courts right now. They're trying to say that I need a permit to vend. I'm trying to explain to them that I'm not under their jurisdiction. I have a right under the 9th Amendment as well as the First Amendment of the Constitution of Florida that rights shall not be the enumeration of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So I have a right to do this. You're trying to claim that, I'm violating an ordinance. How can I be violating an ordinance when I never contract with you? I'm not an employee. I don't work for you. I work for God. So they're trying to figure out a way to get me into their contract, and I'm letting them know through handwritten affidavits and everything, standing in my own square and on my rights in my own jurisdiction of the land and soil, presenting myself in the court of law, which then brought to my attention, does the assembly have anybody being a lawyer for them or private counsel or anything like that? Do we have anybody, we're so kind of divided and self-governing that we need to somehow unite into some form of principles of where, we're self-governed, but we are sticking together. We are a government of the people, by the people.
The Assembly has 4 pillars that need to have those offices filled. We are in that process. Last Thursday, I gave a summary presentation on the offices that we've elected people, the offices that still need an official in them, some committees that actually are under those 4 pillars at the state level, and we have 25 or so counties that do have organizers that have activities going on their counties, right? So we are focused at the state level to get those pillars up and running.
If I could be a part of the court, what position would I be, and how many positions do we need to fill?
Well, we'd have to sit down. The first thing, Seneca, honestly, the reason I sent the book is that's going to give you a good idea of what needs to be done. And then you can look at your own skill sets and go, I would be really good in, say, business contracts, right? Because in the international business pillar, all of those resources on Florida belong to the people. And so the contracts that we're issuing to people like Nestle's for water, or any of the large ag chemical companies for phosphorus, any of the pine timber to the logging companies, all those assets belong to Florida and the people of Florida. So
it's interesting you said that, because
corporate state of Florida that's a franchise of the United States, Inc., that's in the District of Columbia, selling off our assets without any input from us, the people on Florida, because we're not reconstructed and assembled in order to address them. And the courts are the lawful way to do that when there's a controversy. So, and their case law tells us that we actually will look at an inquiry and we will settle the matter by deciding it. And it is as conclusive on their Supreme Court as it is every other court on the planet.
So I wrote that in there last night, saying that what we need mostly will be basically, if you look at all the statutes, it's all like diction is another word for vocabulary or phrases or phraseology or words, and then juris is right.
We speak plain common English in the American common law courts. That's what we don't speak legalese.
I gathered that, but if we're going to operate in 2 different jurisdictions, then
we're not. No, you don't understand. So that's what I'm trying to explain, Seneca. So the Florida Assembly, the Jural Assembly under the Florida Assembly, with our state courts, has general, concurrent general jurisdiction of land, air, and water. The federal courts have limited jurisdiction, and the municipal governments and courts have strictly limited jurisdiction. We have concurrent general jurisdiction. We can look and decide on anything. We don't have multiple jurisdictions. We got all the jurisdictions.
So when we use common law language, it's like straight up out of a Webster's dictionary and then learning how to develop contracts through that versus legalese language, which is...
if you had the Telegram page, I would send you an 1834 book called The American Common Law Cases Decided in the courts of the several states.
I
and
did
the United
download
States.
Telegram right now while we were on the phone. I'm going to
things
go.
I could provide for you. There is a great book here. As a matter of fact, I just sent that to you. Let me send you another one.
Okay, I'm going to open up Telegram.
This explains. We're back on email. So this explains. There you go, right there. And this is the title of this book. The title of this book is Common Law Community Training Manual. And this one was recommended by Anna. I actually used this book back in 2019 when I wrote the first manual for our common law courts in the Florida Common Law Litigation Committee. So I attached that book.
I got to thank the Lord that I met you. I got to thank Barbie. I have to thank God. I'm so glad I met you. I don't feel so alone now.
No, but we do have to. So we need to be prudent, right? And that what that means to me is that I need to be able to prove those things I state and have evidence to support those things I state. So if I tell you something happened and there's a congressional record showing that I'm correct, I provide you the congressional record to prove that what I just said was real.
Okay.
If I tell you the Supreme Court said or did something that makes it clear who has what authority, I will actually provide the actual Supreme Court case and the actual wording in the case to prove what I just said is correct. So what for me, when I say we need to be prudent, is that I must, this is my own standard for myself. I hope it's one for everybody, but my standard is that I actually have the receipts, the proof, the evidence for what I say. And so that anybody can verify it. Anybody can fact check it. And I give you the documents, and I give you the link to the actual location of where the documents are, either in the Continental Congress and the Congress of the United States in their congressional record, or in the Supreme Court and their Supreme Court case links right to that. So it's all about making a claim and being able to support the claim with actual evidence.
I love it.
If you do that, then no one, as a matter of fact, a Latin maxim of law is juris et de jure. And it's a truth that can't be rebutted.
Juris, tell me how to spell that.
It is here. Hold on one second. Here, let me finish. I'm putting your email together with, so I attached the book. This can also be referred to, the book that I'm sending you is the reign of natural liberty. And natural liberty, the common law in the courts. That it's a real brief. It really is. You'll be surprised. But it gives a good overview. The very first part of the book talks about what they're doing internationally. But then right after that, they get into how to hold a court, the roles of the people in the court, what's required. It's a good overview. And so for the common law court, you'll see how simple the common law courts actually are. And that's by design. They're not complicated.
Yeah, these are tribunal or chancery courts, kangaroo courts, military courts.
Yeah, well, and the rules, they set the rules, and the rules apply to them, and they don't really apply to us. So we're guilty when we walk in there, right? Because we innocently but ignorantly claim that we are actually. What does it want me to do? I wanted to send.
What about when I send and fill out a notice of special appearance and deny any allegations of jurisdiction over me while challenging that, as well as the venue? using their statute 47.011, where an action may begin or may be begun, talking about being a non-resident, that they can't action against me. So, and in this being a lone rider, I've had to create, along with my notarial, documents of my declaration of naturalization, along with my political status, and then my recorded testimony and documentation from my notarial recorder, international notarial witness, or the recorder, the apostle that recorded me on the land and soil and then notarized it. I created an affidavit of status that discusses the Sesquier V Act of 1666, going back into me taking ownership of both and all, my rights of my title as Seneca, common law, autograph, natural born Innisee, Senegalese Siebert, as well as my corporate juristic person, ens legis creature of law, known as all capital letters, Senegalese Siebert. So then, and then I created an affidavit of guardianship along with my birth certificate being authenticated and authorized, and then covering it under Minnesota Rule 220, recognizing that I'm not a ward nor under the parents patriae of the city or the state, if you will, the state. So then, and these are the documents that I have that I've been issuing in the court and standing my own ground in my own land and soil jurisdiction, and they keep filing continuances, and I think that they are trying to figure out what to do and place me within their jurisdiction, but they can't and haven't. And I have been motioning to dismiss the case, but the judge is trying not to recognize my authority in the court. So, I'm learning as I go, so I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just saying that I only know what I know based off what has come to me and also through experience. And then I have intuition kind of guiding me as well, at the same time. So I do believe that I'm going to beat the case. I really do. Because I recorded everything on my phone when these officers first made contact with me. And right away I reserved all rights. I then showed them all my paperwork. I also was going to be a police officer, and then my teacher was an internal affairs agent, and that blew my mind. I was like, what do you mean? So then she told me that police don't actually follow the Constitution a lot, and it just blew my mind. So then I had a conflict of interest. I was like, I can't be a police officer, but I went ahead and spent the money to buy some LexisNexis books, and I got the legal guidelines discussing, probable cause, de facto arrest and all this stuff. And then one of the things that it talks about in there is essentially, operating under the color of law and deprivation of rights under color of law. And then it shows in their own law book that I showed them in the documentation, the videography that I took, and they still proceeded against me. Well, I have affidavits, like you said. If you're going to make a claim, try to have the laws and everything back it up, which I do for the most part. I mean, listen, you're well in the race, and God has provided a lot of information for you. So you definitely, I commend, a lot of gratitude and a lot of respect for where you are, truly, in your walk of life. Commendable. They say, I heard when I was growing up, when an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. And you know what? You ain't kidding. And so, learning what I think could vastly help me. My grandfather told me when I was 7 years old, he said, I'm 50 years old. So imagine if you could take some of my advice and learn what I know and how much that would expand your knowledge and elevate you or excel you in life faster than everybody else by learning from me and what I've already learned. And, that sat with me. So then I learned to respect my elders and people that obviously have wisdom inside them and to learn from them. So you're saying that these courts, that there is no remedy and that we are guilty the moment that we walk in the door. So what do you...
Yeah, because you're a U.S. citizen or a citizen of the United States, no matter what you say, and the Constitution doesn't really apply. So, and that's hard for people to understand, but these courts are administrative courts that operate under the executive branch of government.
So the executive created its own judiciary through administration.
That's exactly right. And according to Justice Thomas in the Axon versus FTC case, where it was a 9-0 opinion from that Supreme Court, that it just came in vogue, and they're just dressed up as judicial judges.
So they're not really judges. They have violated the separation.
They're administrators, and they're just administering statute, codes, and rules and regulations against employees. That's the thing you really got to grasp.
I do. I grasp that. I've been going.
Or a man or any of these notices you sent don't mean a thing. That you have that they are convinced that because you said yes to some kind of benefit, that you voted somewhere in their election, that you received benefit from them, and therefore you're obligated under contract to be a citizen of the U.S. or a U.S. citizen. So that when you walk in there, that's who you are. And that's why you're already guilty, because you violated. You have to prove yourself innocent. You're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's what you're facing. It's the reverse of everything we've ever thought.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm definitely not doubting you. It's the reality of, I guess, me processing the emotions that, I still believe that when I walk in there and stand in my own square, my own jurisdiction, with my affidavits and my paperwork that can't be rebutted, and then just keep denying the allegations against me, that they have any authority over me, that eventually they're just going to have to dismiss the case. And, I was going to try to use the phraseology to them, dismiss the case without retaliation, as well as res judicata, which means that this matter has been judged and they can't go back and try to, violate me or put a citation on me for something that only applies to them. That's what I tell them all the time. I don't work for you. And that's the benefit of me, is that, at first I thought it was problematic. I didn't realize that I was being blessed, that, for the last 10 to 14 years, I have not had a job on the books. I don't receive any form of benefits. I don't own any property except for my own self. I'm a non-resident. I haven't been in Florida long enough. I don't vote, and I have, basically have never contributed to their system. So there's nothing that they can use against me. I don't have a background knowledge of any kind of criminal record long enough, or citizenry, or a registered vehicle, or anything like that in my name. So I basically don't exist to them. So, I can feel things, and I felt like they are trying to look for things on me, but don't have anything on me but my affidavits themselves. And so, I am going to go challenge these things, and, I'm not going to plead guilty. I'll take it right to trial, and then I know that that's where they'll dismiss the case, because they're not going to pay for a trial over a seatbelt ticket. They're not going to pay for a trial over a violation of some ordinance that has nothing to do with me. At least this is my theory of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. No. So, this is so you certainly have an understanding that the system that we're facing is structured in their favor, and that is a real tough road to hoe for us. I don't advocate giving up. I don't advocate being in their course, but understand, if you are, that you do the best you can, right, to rebut their assumptions and presumptions.
Yes.
And so since we're different people, we use a little different approach. Rather than arguing, I will just tell them I'm not in possession of any documentation from the government that says that I am a U.S. citizen or citizen of the United States. I am in possession of the manual of law of peace, that says that I'm born and I acquire, 6.3, section 6.3 says that I acquire my nationality by my birth on the soil of a nation or state. So I have birthright nationality, but I didn't get citizenship. That's not what you get. And the law of peace says what I get from being born on a nation or state in the soil of that nation or state is my nationality. So I'm a Pennsylvanian, right? So that I can tell you I am. But I can also tell you I'm not in possession of any documents from the United States government that says I ever met or have subjected myself to the Act of April 14th, 1802, in their Naturalization Act that says you can only get that citizenship this way and not otherwise. So I'm not in possession of any documents that clerk of that court would have had to keep a record of a judge granting me a request for citizenship, because that has never happened. I have never done that. And the government has no documentation, right? I'm not in possession of it, and the government doesn't have it. I'm rebutting your claim.
I like that.
Right, so we're doing it a little bit differently, but that's only because of what I've studied and what I've done and what I've seen versus what you studied, what you've done, and what you've seen. But
I'm going on pure.
To compare notes to see, what we can do. My problem is the more time and effort I take to fight the battles in their courts, I'm taking the time and effort away from getting our state courts up and running.
Well, I'm hoping that once this is done, okay, and over with, I will have standed on my rights that they can't mess with me anymore within the jurisdiction of the city of St. Augustine, okay? And then I plan on, once this is all over and done with, basically sitting at a beach for maybe like a week or two to be able to get my thoughts back together. And because, it does take a lot of mental and physical and emotional energy out of you to develop my case and then, to stand my ground in the court. And you're absolutely right. I am doing this by myself. And the more progress I see, it shows me that I have a strength that I can at least offer my services to the assembly, okay? That I know what to predict, what to expect, how to respect these people, because, again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or whatever and act like I'm somebody better than anybody else. I mean, really, I don't know why I say that, because I meet a lot of egomaniacal people. That's why. But anyways, I do a lot of shadow work. And the more that I do shadow work, it teaches me how to face what I don't like about myself is what I don't like about other people. So we have given power outside ourselves to the government by saying they're trying to come after us or they're doing this. And it's like, they are, if you close your eyes and imagine the feeling of what they are, they're you and you're them. And we've given them power. And the more that we heal this resentment, this judgment, this denial towards them inside us, this pain, these factors inside us of how we prejudice against them, we take our power back. And we actually forgive them for what they've done, but we don't have to recognize them as a legitimate source of power over us. We have all inherent political power. The government is set up for our benefit and our safety. And yes, you're absolutely right. It no longer is that way. They have through the years, you study 1933, the HJR 192 Act, and then the Trading with the Enemy Act, and we're, technically United States citizens. You know what I'm saying?
The next thing I'm going to teach you is how to breathe.
How to breathe, Hey.
Because, it can be too intense for a lot of people. And again, so I give you that book. You're going to like the book, American Assembly Required. But it gives you nice little bite-sized pieces. And people can tend to digest that just a little bit better. They haven't spent any time doing research or reading on this. So all of this is so new to them and so foreign that their cognitive dissonance just overwhelms them. It's actually TMI, or 99% of the population is just too much information.
I'm going to eat it up like it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? And dessert.
Now that's good, but remember, everybody else is on a diet.
Everybody else is on a diet.
Right, and you cannot force feed them.
So I don't want to
You
act
either
like...
have a knack for it and a desire to learn it, study it, or you don't. And a lot of people, it's like math. A lot of people really don't really want to understand what law is. And law is much simpler than they know. It really is. This stuff where you got, millions of statutes, codes, rules, regulations. We have 0 statutes. That's how simple our American common law system is. We don't have any statutes. Everything we do and every decision from the court is based on the verdict of the jury, who looks at tradition and precedent for how to decide a case based on the facts that they establish from the evidence they look at. And the jury actually gets to decide what the facts are, right? What the law is that the facts apply to, and what the punishment is. The justice actually has the easier job. He just gets to read the decision of the verdict of the jury. Now, he does, or she has, to justify that decision, right? So that's an art in itself.
So if we're going to establish the courts, is there any positions that are filled right now, and what positions need to be filled?
We have the clerk. We have 2 justices. We need a 3rd justice at the state level. We have a nominee for that.
What does a justice do?
A nominee for that.
What does a justice do?
We have our administrator for the state level General Assembly. We have a vice chair of the state level General Assembly. We have a chairman of the state level General Assembly. So we have a number of. That's what I said last week. I gave an update on all of those updates on how the fillers are doing and the offices that are being filled and the elections that we've held. Do you get a notification for those meetings?
I did, and it's sad, but every time I'd be like, "Oh, a meeting tonight," and then something comes up. Again, I'm buried in trying to create a litigation defense towards these situations moving forward, and I've just been, between 10 to 11 hours a day. I have been missing the meetings, and I apologize. I did catch it last night, which was really great. So it was great to hear.
Before we actually covered those offices, is the only reason I mentioned it. Now, you can go and look up on on Telegram. We have a Florida Assembly Telegram channel. And that means that you can't post on the channel, but Ralph posts all the meetings of the General Assembly on that Telegram channel.
Okay. I'm going to look up Telegram right now, the channel. Yep. So what's it called, Florida Assembly?
The Florida Assembly. That's the title of the Telegram.
The Florida Assembly. Yep. There it is, right there. Yep, the Brevard County. There it is, right there. So.
The Florida Assembly.
Yeah, okay, I typed in the Florida Assembly, and it pops up Florida Assembly, the Brevard County as. But that's not it?
I don't know why it has Brevard County on there. So if you open the Telegram page, you should be able to see that Ralph Moore has posted the Florida General Assembly meeting. Do the Florida General Assembly. Just do that.
The Florida General. Okay, it's still popping up, the Brevard County Assembly.
I'm not sure.
Okay, it says, in our next meeting this Saturday, June 1st, Satellite Beach.
Brevard County. That should not say the Florida General Assembly of Brevard County. I'm not sure what here.
Okay. I'm looking. The Florida. Okay. Florida Distro, the Commission. No. The Florida General Assembly. I'm not sure why, but it's not popping up.
Yeah, you keep going up with Brevard. That's really weird.
Yeah, it keeps.
Let me know.
Okay. It just keeps saying Brevard County.
Take a look. So you got a couple of things in your email.
Perfect. I'm going to download that right now.
Common Law Courts Training Manual.
So there it is right there. Perfect.
And then let's look at
So read these books, get an idea of what's going on. Then from there, we'll discuss further on what is necessary towards the reality of us.
Okay. So it's called the Florida Assembly. So and it's right off the bat. So it's just the Florida Assembly. Comes
The
right up on television.
Florida.
And then here, let me see if I can actually do.
I don't know why it's not popping up the Florida Assembly. I keep having only. All right, now I'm hitting remove your search history. I'm trying to find. Okay, it's okay, Seneca. Take a couple deep breaths. It's okay, Seneca. It's okay. Okay.
Now, it may be that you have to be added to that channel.
Okay, that would make sense too.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure.
So I did set up a Telegram now. You will find me as Seneca Siebert. I go by on all my documents the living man, Seneca Lee Siebert, superscripted copyright symbol, punctuated. But, you know, Seneca Siebert is still just as good. It's my name, you know, whatever. But you'll find me in there.
Let me see. Seneca Siebert.
Yep.
Seneca's coming up.
SENECA. In me, you can edify and be able to help me out, and to try to also unify myself as well to be a part of the assembly and not just be individual minded. That you know we all are in this together. We're all a part of the same team. So you know there's no sense of trying to make this about me or one person. But you know I've heard that Nevada actually has a well-developed assembly that state troopers in their local municipalities leave them alone. And so, you know, if Florida could hit the gas a little bit in our educational stance, get these courts up and running, and I would be more than happy. You know, I'm flawed like everybody else. We're human beings and we have error in us, but it doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to, you know, operate the best that we possibly can and offer our services while we're here in the existence of this realm we call reality or the world or, you know, Earth, and do this for our children. That's mostly what this aim is for me, is that my kid's 12 years old. I can't talk to her about the problems of the world. She, you know, is innocent and fragile. So it's up to me to take on, like you said, you know, the responsibility and the best I can and try to carry this load so that our children grow up in the great nation that they are, you know, indoctrinated to believe that is a free nation, and to preserve those liberties for the future moving forward, and to have a sound.
Well, that's the goal for everybody to provide, you know, our actual factual government and operate our own courts and provide our own remedy, because the employees that we've hired have lost sight of the goal, right? They don't care about us. And that's not that surprising, because they're concerned about themselves, and so they really don't care about us. And so we have to care about ourselves. And,
Right.
And we need to get back in charge so we can actually instruct them on what it is they're supposed to do. We vacated those offices. When we walked out of Congress, we vacated the office of the, by the way, two offices. So you have the Congress of the Confederation, and that
We were the recipients of the Constitution for the United States, and we occupied the office of the Congress of the Union. We were the federal republic in charge of the territorial and municipal government service providers, and we walked out. So we left them in charge by walking out. Now, did we have the right to do that? Well, certainly there are a number of people that would tell you we absolutely did. And there's even some writings by Abraham Lincoln where he acknowledged that we were free and independent states. So how could we not secede if a contract was breached? So there's a lot of history there, a lot of.
What do you think our remedy would be to be able to build our foundation back up lawfully and rightfully so, without?
Well, we're in the middle of that.
Okay.
The four pillars already have people in the offices already.
Okay.
So that's at state level. So yeah, we're not just talking about doing something. We actually have the pillars up.
I get
I've been
that.
attending these assembly meetings here on Florida with Ralph Moore, the coordinator, for 5 years.
What I'm saying is that when we made the steps, so are we working somehow between informing or letting the de facto side know that we're taking our position?
We've been in communication with them over the last 5 years. That's what I'm telling you, Seneca. They don't listen. They don't care.
Oh, okay.
They have told us they're going to continue doing what they're doing until they are instructed by a higher power. Those are the response we get from them. Guess who the higher power is?
Wouldn't that be God?
Actual factual government on Florida, in the Florida Assembly, and our courts in the state bureau assembly pillar.
So the highest authority will be us.
Absolutely, we are. We ordained government.
Yeah. You're right.
The Creator ordained our existence. We ordained their existence. Without us, they would not exist.
That's true.
Yeah, so we understand the relationship. So assembling the four pillars, we've been busy at doing that. We are the government on Florida. They do have a government, and even a de facto government is considered legitimate until decided otherwise in their courts. So they see themselves as legitimate. We know they have a government. They force their will on us constantly.
Yes.
So
I'm going to read those books. That's what I feel like my homework is. After I read those books.
Yeah, because that'll give you a better idea of what it is we're actually looking at, and then understanding. Okay, I'll send you some additional stuff. Attending the meetings, and there'll be some books that I can send for the assembly that gives the structure of things.
Yep.
So you can kind of figure out, do I like international business more than I like Jural, or do I like the general, or even the militia pillars, right? I mean, all of those things constitute a fully assembled assembly, and you must have all four pillars. Now, we can function with our courts before we are completely functional with all four pillars, but we absolutely have to do this in the proper, lawful way.
One of my favorite things to do is research positive remedy and law. So that would fall within our court system, our own judicial branch. So, that's where I see myself mostly, is that I love the law, and I love, like I said, positive remedy and finding these things to litigate for somebody within recourse and remedy. So whenever there's a recourse, there's always supposed to be a remedy, and that can only, so either if there isn't a remedy, then we can also create a remedy. We can find ways within the language of the common law to create remedy for people. So basically, I love defense, I love law in that way, and I do, I understand that there's a legalese language. It's when you understand the legalese language, then I see that that's useful too. I have a hard time telling myself that I'm good at this, and this is what I should be doing, and also trying to find purpose in that within the assembly, and let's say having, you tell me, oh, well, we're operating under common law, and this is the language that we're going to use. Okay, so how can I maximize my knowledge and ability within that language to help develop contracts or notices of our own way, or however we create our system of process? You understand what I'm saying? Our own common law procedure.
Well, happy reading. It is an assignment. Yes, I'd like you to read them so you kind of, when we have a discussion about where we started and what happened and where we are and where we need to go,
okay,
we'll both be on the same page, right?
Okay.
We'll have an understanding of the subject matter that we're discussing.
I understand. So
All right,
read those
great,
books.
excellent.
That'll help me get a better, well-rounded idea of where we are, where we're going, where we've been,
Yep.
and then maybe find a place for me then where it's necessary.
And we'll visit. I mean, like there, this is the reason everything starts, like with that first meeting, and you go, okay, so here's some stuff I think will help you just understanding when I'm going to have a conversation with you what my thought process is
Right.
and why.
Yep.
And then you have a more intelligent conversation, and you go, man, I know where he's coming from because I've read that same book and I understand what happened. And you go, okay, good. Then you kind of know we need to go here. If you've never read that, right, it's really hard to understand where we're supposed to go.
I agree.
There's all kinds of committees. I mean, even the organizers. There's an organizer's handbook. There is a coordinator's handbook, which is, suitable, but there's actually an organizer's handbook as well. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to get done in order to get our pillars up, not only at the state level. That's the most important right now. Because when we populate the state, if you're in the General Assembly for the state, you're automatically in the General Assembly of your county.
Okay.
And so by populating the state, in parallel, we are populating the counties. And then each county has its own pillars for business, for the General Assembly, for the General Assembly.
So if I'm located in Putnam County, and let's say I'm a part of the General Assembly, if something happens in Putnam County, I can help out somebody in that county. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what
absolutely.
you're saying. Okay.
And if there's something they need, right, in an office that needs to be filled there, you go, well, yeah. So you are on Putnam. I'm trying. Okay, you're next to Flagler and right below Clay and right next to St. John.
Mm-hmm.
And Marion and Alachua and Bradford. You're right. You're surrounded. And it's like you're in a wagon.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by.
Yes.
So, and Flagler's got a great organizer there.
Okay.
And John, I know people on.
What is the role of an organizer? What does an organizer do?
So on the county, you would go out and visit with people, hold an assembly meeting, open air park on freeconferencecall.com, invite people to those meetings. You would go over basically what you're about to read on America Some Assembly Required. And even if you need to do, so what's nice about that book that you'll find, Seneca, when you take a look at it, is they're short chapters.
Okay.
And the reason that's important is because you want it in bite-sized pieces. You really do, because you can give people too much information, and you go, okay, so now I'm going to just take little bite-sized chapters, and I can cover maybe two, maybe only cover one in a meeting and have a discussion.
Okay.
About, here's where it kind of fell apart, or here's how it was actually created. So this is what we actually had. And we'll quickly go through this and then focus on areas like we lost our courts. When did we lose our courts? Well, lost during the Civil War. How did we lose it? Reconstruction Act. What do we need to do? Reconstruct our courts. And just a meet and greet. Flagler's organizer down there does a lot of outdoor meetings at an open air park, and hands out brochures
has a topic planned out for the assembly meeting, and they actually can handle, that particular person can actually handle the paperwork that needs to be done. So you need a recording secretary typically that will help your county, or have one of your own that's trained by the head recording secretary, so they can record people's paperwork on our land recording.
I'd love to do that. I love what Alan did. He's the one who recorded me on the land and soil jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That's basically a notarial witness or a notary public, right? Or an apostle.
Now, who was that recorded you?
His name was Alan McWilliam Jr.
And where was he at? On Maine?
In
Or
Maine, yep.
Here?
Maine Assembly, yep.
Yep. So every county kind of builds those same 4 pillars, all right? And so and what we do have, we have a notary, right? So we have a public notary. We don't have a notary public. We do not do a notary presentation. That's their world. That's not ours. So there's things that we do lawfully that the people do. And of course, there's things that they do under their statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, which is notary presentment.
Is that all a land recorder does, is just notarize people, or notarial witness internationally?
Upload their documents onto our land recording system.
Okay, yep.
With the paperwork to get the either the 1779s and witness statements, or the full 928 package. Just depends, right, on how they want to paper up.
How does the process of the copywriting work? In that book that you sent me, would that talk about like the process of the copyright process, and do they do a UCC one for you, or?
This is the history and the structure of the 3 different constitutions and the 3 branches of government called the Federal Republic, which is us, the people, and the 2 service provider contractors called the territorial and the municipal governments. Each one of those, we and each one of them have their own version of the Constitution. The municipal doesn't include the words of America. Their Constitution, which is their corporate charter, just says the Constitution of the United States. The territorial government, which is in charge of the military, coordinates all that. Now, that's a foreign corporation that is in charge of our military. They call it the Constitution for the United States of America. And the original Constitution that we use for the Federal Republic is for the United States of America. And it has a little u because it's the subject, that the noun, the name of the thing that's receiving that is called the States of America. That's why it's a little u.
So it would be for the lowercase u, United, and then what? Uppercase S, States? Or is it both?
Yes, of America. So
of
that
America.
document was written for the States of America.
Right.
Not for the United anything. It was written for the States of America.
The States of America. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Which are sovereign nation states.
Well, they are, because originally, right, that's how we performed, and that's in the Congress of the Confederation of States, we were free and independent sovereign nation states. And that organization, that Congress, that the Articles of Confederation are still valid. Never been repealed. We should be in that Philadelphia Convention for the Articles of Confederation, and we should be attending the Union Congress in the District of Columbia.
So is there going to be some of us that have to drive up to Washington, District of Columbia and present the several states of the Union and represent the de jure government?
Yeah, by the time we even have to think about that, I don't know that I think D.C.'s empty right now.
I personally believe it's a dying religion, okay?
No, I think a lot of those buildings are, the Federal Reserve is empty. I think I think the FBI building is empty. I think a lot has happened that the mainstream media is just simply not discussing, not they're just not going to go there. They're not going to talk about
So
it.
you believe, really, that the people are taking a stand, waking up, and joining assemblies across the entire continental United States, and they're losing power that they don't want to talk about?
I think they've gone belly up and bankrupt.
I agree. I agree.
And so they don't have the money to pay for occupying those offices. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this White House press conference shit that you see is really Tyler Perry's little White House mock-up in Georgia.
I have a question. So, if that debt is really actually applied to the United States government and not the people, then
It is.
when that officially becomes something of significance that is leading to a big major transition, what steps should we take, or what will be the solution or remedy moving forward, taking back our country that applies that debt to them and not the American people to preserve our resources?
Here, the United States Incorporated, the United States government, the United States Incorporated, has a D&B, a Dun and Bradstreet number. It is listed as a for-profit corporation.
I know that.
Okay, so the bankers with the Federal Reserve, which are private bankers, they're not part of the federal government. The private bankers have funded a private corporation, right?
Okay.
So if the private corporation goes belly up, who loses the money invested in them? The people or the Federal Reserve, the private bankers?
The shareholders of the private,
You're correct.
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve's not part of our government. They don't answer to us. They make their own decisions. They fund their own stuff, right? They charge us interest to loan us their fiat dollars, the government their fiat dollars.
Well, there's another thing that I had when I wrote down,
the Federal Reserve
and I asked myself,
a bad business decision to back the United States Inc. And it's a corporation, not us. So we're not the corporation, and the Federal Reserve backs a corporation. If the corporation goes up, they will lose their money. That $35 trillion they say is the debt. We also, if you know anything about accounting, there is the other side of the ledger, which is the credit.
That's right.
So this whole thing can unravel. I don't think it really, if the Treasury is actually functioning under what's left of the government, that the United States has enough gold. It has more gold than China and Russia combined. And so we could back a United States Treasury dollar, or as Anna likes to call them, an American Federated dollar, with gold. And just now have lawful money again and never have to talk about nor see or deal with the private bankers in the Federal Reserve.
So essentially, what you're saying, because there's a guy that I follow for the last 2 years now, 3 years. It's been 3 years. Robots and Patriots, Patrick Devine. He's the one that I found out about.
Yes, I've read all this stuff. See, I've got it. So you and I are going to focus on our pillars, our actual American common law courts. I don't really give a crap about Patrick Devine.
Okay. But he's
dealing with their system and their statutes and their UCCs and their 1099s and all that happy crap. None of that means anything to us.
Okay.
We're going to issue orders from our courts to have them correct our political status and to break us free of their matrix, because we are not U.S. citizens nor citizens of the United States.
I like that.
We have the receipts and the evidence to prove it.
Okay, yes.
And if they actually want us to have a plate on our car, it's going to show that if we are a hands-off, we are a state national, right, that is not a U.S. citizen, and their law enforcement officers cannot, without probable cause, stop us and interfere with our travel.
Right.
And so when they run our plate, they're going to see we are not one of their citizens. And if they do pull us over, they better have probable cause, or they will be sued in our courts that have a higher authority than every court they have.
I'm loving this. You're right. I see it
That's
on the plate right now.
What
right
is supposed to already be in place.
Right where it says "In God We Trust," it should say "de jure." De jure. That means that we're lawful, in right.
Well, see, I don't think God's name ought to be on, money. Period.
No.
I think that's the whole thing.
You know
the root
what?
of all evil is money. So why are we putting His name on?
Well, God's name is actually Yahweh, but you're absolutely right. Why are we putting God on our money?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So just call it a treasury dollar.
A treasury dollar. Take that off.
Backed by gold.
Yeah.
There's our trust. Backed by gold.
I like that. Yep. A certificate of gold.
Real
a gold certificate. Yep.
The waters.
Yeah, I like that. Yep. I definitely see de jure.
Hey, it's a lot of stuff to undo, Seneca, on the way we think, right? It really is, because it's all we've ever known. And now we're having to stop and reconsider everything we thought we knew.
When I was a kid...
Hey, I've got to run to take care of some stuff.
Yes. You know what? It's a pleasure. I'm going to read these books. I'm going to take down your number and actually log it into my phone as a contact. And if I do have any crazy questions or whatever, or you just want to talk, I definitely would like to meet you. But I'm going to read these books and attend these meetings. And we will, put it in the Lord's hands. But let's see it in our mind and think it. We're going to get these courts up and running. That's my motive. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, there's still just one answer. As a matter of fact, now that I did this, so I'm gonna go ahead and try and get started on my stuff. What I'll do is I'm going to send you that article, since I've got your email address. I couldn't find you on Telegram, and that might be because it's just new, right? It's just now they haven't activated it. So I'm gonna send you the article. Come on. There you go. And it's just one answer. And so it's a pretty good article. It's still just one answer. That's the whole part of it. And so you'll have that in there, and you can read that as well.
So our courts are the highest authority of the land. Therefore, when we make a law, it'll supersede any law that they have. Yes.
Oh, sure. No.
Yeah. I'm excited.
We have all the authority.
I am excited. I'm on board. You know what? I'm excited. I know I got to calm down a little bit, but this is just me. This is what happens, I think, when you're kind of battling things and I don't know. I don't have a whole bunch of excuses of why I am the way that I am. I just know that...
Yeah, you don't need an excuse.
Well, some people might perceive me differently and then want to limit who I am inside their own mind and not give me the same credibility within their own self, and just recognize that, I don't know, I've been fighting this battle by myself, and now to be a part of the assembly and then trying to work with people, not like let's do it. Let's not just keep working by ourselves and keep reading this information. We from Z plates to everything else, we need to figure out a way to create from our jurisdiction.
No, we already have the way. The way is there's still just one answer. I just sent you that article. It's our state courts.
Then we need to follow the way that's already been set before us.
Everything.
Yep, we need to follow the way that's already there and legitimized for us, so that we can create our own license plates and decals that they.
Okay. Here's the bottom line for a court that has general jurisdiction. Our wish is your command. We wish the state to do this. It's a command to them. We wish for you to do this. It's another command. They're the employees. We pay them. We command them to do things.
So it's not asking them, it's commanding them.
We're the boss.
Right.
The boss doesn't ask. The boss issues an order. I need this done. You, over there, you, take care of this. And get back with me and let me know when it's done. Okay, next problem. All right, that's what the boss does. That's what
right.
I did. I didn't ask anybody. One of the things I'm great at is delegate. Oh, I can always find a body to get a job done. Right? So I mean, it's our wish. Our wish is actually a command. It's just a kind way of saying get it done.
Right. Right,
They
I
don't
get
have
it.
an option.
Our wish
Yes.
is our command.
No, that's actually correct. You can actually Google that. My wish is my command. And see what that statement means. Senator, I got to run.
All right, take care, Giles. God bless you. Until next time.
You do well. All right,
Take care.
bye.